This is the High Flying Podcast where we be drop kicking it with the boys. So make sure to body slam that like, share, and subscribe button, or I will have to do something super crazy to your girl, make her go crazy, turn into a drunk, make her catch a couple DUIs. She has to go to jail for life. And then you know, something happens to you. But anyways, we'll get into that a little later right now. You already motherfuckers know what it is, man. You are tuned into one of my favorite segments of the podcast, Darkside of the Ring, with Chris and Tammy, a.k.a. Sonny and motherfucking, I forgot his name, but he was part of the Bodyguards. Yo. So, listen, Sonny, if you don't know, alright? So, for people that are Sonny fans, you were on America Online. You see how my shit is running right now? This is how the internet was. When we had to, it's glitchy and all of that shit that you're seeing right now. It's like stopping and going and everything like that. Yeah. I don't know why it does that with this channel, but fuck it. We're going to be here because all you really need to do is just listen to these motherfuckers because they get dark, boy. And let me tell you something about this story right here. We're going to start off squeaky clean with a nice little high school story and all that. And it's going to go completely left, ladies and gentlemen. This right here is going to show you why bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks. And nigga, you should be about your money and don't trace a motherfucking bitch. You know what I mean? So, but all seriousness, if you was in this era, you love Sonny. Sonny was the motherfucking goddess of all goddess. She knew her position. She went somewhere with it. It went a little further than it was supposed to. But hey, it is what it is. You know what I'm talking about? Just make sure we recording. Alright, great. Alright, so this is what we gonna do. This is one of my favorite segments of all motherfucking time. I get into the stories. This is the, High Flying Podcast where we do smoke weed, pop shit, and talk wrestling just to pass the time. So, we're going to smoke some weed, we're going to pop some shit, and we definitely going to talk wrestling. Sonny was 96 through like 8. Sonny was it. Before Sable, before Deborah, before the Attitude Era, Sonny was her, okay? Let me explain that. She was one of my crushes. She was one of my... Before it was Topanga, it was the Pink Ranger, and then Sonny. Get that shit straight and put some respect on her name. Sonny, unfortunately, is dealing with some legal issues. She caught a body. She was on that hen dog. Caught a body, nothing to laugh about, nothing to joke about, or nothing like that. But she caught a body up behind the wheel, and she's serving possibly life. We're gonna get into everything right now. You know what I mean? I'm gonna actually let the few minutes go by without my commentary, so y'all can get a gist of it. Just so before I tap in and out like how I do. But for right now, man, this is the dark side of the ring. You know what I mean? And I just want y'all to enjoy this like I do, man. Enjoy the background if y'all can. But definitely listen to these stories, man. Because they'll change your... You know what I mean? They'll either make you respect somebody, lose respect, or see their side of the story. But, you know what I mean? This is the dark side of the ring. So let's go.
Tammy and Chris's story is everything. It was a love story. It was a cautionary tale. It was a success story. It was a failure story.
High school sweethearts Chris Candido and Tammy Sitch soared to wrestling stardom, fueled by their talent, ambition, and devotion to one another.
Anybody who met Chris loved Chris. You couldn't help it.
From the first time that I saw Chris in the ring, I knew he had exceptional talent. He was a natural, and he loved wrestling.
I went from seeing Chris and Tammy backstage to seeing them as two of the biggest stars.
But as Tammy's star rose higher and brighter than Chris's, the bond between the young lovers was put to the test.
Tammy was the first female internet sensation in professional wrestling.
And when she came onto the scene, she took all of the attention away from him.
Until a series of devastating injuries and ill-fated choices sent them hurtling towards disaster.
There was substance abuse.
There was alcohol abuse. There were rumors of infidelity.
If you are fucking around with the top guy, have enough decorum to shut your fucking mouth.
They were the two cleanest kids that you could possibly imagine. What has happened? What's happened to these two?
I once said to myself, I'll probably die at 36 because I wanted to be just like Marilyn Monroe.
I know my son loved her. Loved her.
As addicted to opioids as Chris became, his biggest addiction was to Tammy.
Tammy's legacy in wrestling is both a meteoric rise and a meteoric fall.
What happened was bound to happen. You don't live like that. Go away without paying the piper.
If you would have came down to 13-year-old Chris Candido and said, listen, you're going to die at 33, but you're going to be a WWF champion. You're going to have more belts than you can count. You're not going to have kids or get married, but you'll be a wrestling star who's going to be remembered by the people and by other wrestlers.
How about win one for Candido, baby?
Do you accept?
Chris Candido, there you go.
You know, like he took what...
R.I.P. my mans.
I'm Johnny Ray, also known as Johnny Candido. I'm Chris Candido's younger brother. This is the office. This is where he concocted all of the his wrestling ideas and stuff. My brother hung this fan, that's why I haven't taken it down. He's got all the old pictures. I mean, just there's stuff everywhere. In Chris's spare time, he would draw wrestling in here. Wish there was a date on it.
Yo, this dude really loved wrestling, bro. And that's why, like, this story is really sad, because it's like, this dude really had love in his heart. You know what I mean? Like, he loved wrestling, he loved his girl, you know what I mean? Like, this is really a sad story, man.
This is probably before I was even born. Cook is what me, my family, everybody in the neighborhood calls him Cook. When I was a baby, I couldn't say Chris. I called him Cook. It kind of stuck. So he started the Eastern Kids Wrestling Federation. He took this platter that was left behind at somebody's wedding, and yeah, so he just made this out of a weight belt. It looks like a legit wrestling belt, and he made it when he was 13. Like, how the fuck do you even make that at 13, right? Like, him and his friend Scott would say, Chris would say, I'm sleeping at Scott's house. Scott would tell his mom he's sleeping over here, and the two of them, they were 13, they'd get on a bus, go to Brooklyn, and they would wrestle at the Galaxian bar. You know, then they would take a bus back home the next morning and, you know, wash off their gay marks and come back home like they were just like at a regular sleepover. Like, that's how determined he was.
So he was sort of starting his wrestling career like behind your back?
Oh, way behind my back. I had no clue he was doing that. I wouldn't have allowed it. It was not my dream or wish for him at all. Hi, my name is Peggy Ray, and I'm Chris Candido's mom. He was confident that he was going to be a wrestler. It was what he wanted for his future. That's what he wanted to do. He was in a wrestling match at Madison Regional High School, and I went to watch the match that night.
I think he was working with Johnny Hotbody, and Johnny Hotbody had him in a headlock, and he's like, hey, dude, you know, check out the blonde in the front.
I actually saw
This
him.
is where I fucked his whole life up right here.
I said to him, oh my God, I saw this girl, and she was all dressed in white, and she looked so heavenly. And he told me that, yeah, Mom, I met that girl too. Actually, we all went back to her house.
The girl in white was Tamara Lynn Sitch, a bright high school student preparing for college, unaware that her life was about to take a sharp turn.
When Chris and Tammy started dating, they were very into each other, together all the time.
And he would say, Mom, Tammy's coming, please be nice. And I was always pleasant.
That relationship was his other.
You know what that is? When my girl was a hoe and my mom knew it, man, she wasn't holding her tongue, babe. Nah, time about, time about. She probably was like, that girl's a little fasty. Yeah, no, I don't like her, Chris. Keep her on the porch. No, she can't stay for brunch. No. If she does, make sure she doesn't order the mimosa.
Yeah, actually had a prom date. Tammy was just an acquaintance at that time, but he left the prom with the girl and she was sitting there in her convertible. And he left the date and got in the car with her.
Sonny said that. Listen, just off of, the cat, I've met Sonny, and Sonny has such a sexual fucking vibe. Like, I could just imagine Sonny pulling up in the convertible and seeing, like, his girl. I'm like, yo, you gonna leave with her, you gonna leave with me? Like, what we doing? And like, yo, Chris also like, yo, but Sonny, that's my date. She like, yeah, but you try to get this pussy or you try to fuck with that bitch. Like, let me know, because if you coming with me, we gotta go now. And like, dude was like, fuck it, I'm out. You know what I mean? Like, yo, Sonny a bad bitch. Like, she gave that nigga the pussy of his life that night, boy.
Which I didn't think was very nice.
I'm telling you. And I'm telling you.
I thought in the very beginning that she was lovely.
See? That's what I'm saying. Sonny was a pimp.
School, Chris does everything in his power to establish himself in the wrestling business.
My brother was constantly on the phone, trying to get booked, driving to shows. Even if he's not booked, he's still going to drive there and see if he can get on. And he wanted to go to Smoky Mountain, and he was calling Jim Cornette.
He started sending me VHS tapes of all of his matches on the independent circuit. I saw a lot of natural talent in Chris Candido. I'm Jim Cornette. I was the promoter of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and I'm the one who brought Chris Candido and Tammy Sitch to mainstream wrestling. The drawback for me bringing Chris Candido to Smoky Mountain Wrestling was that I couldn't pay him enough to justify asking this kid to move from New Jersey to East Tennessee for $75 a night, 4 times a week or whatever. At the same time, Tammy had never been involved in wrestling. She was Chris's girlfriend. She would go and do some ringside photography or just support him. But I was looking at her, I said, there's something about her. She's got charisma. She's a very pretty girl, but she seems quick and intelligent. Finally, I got an idea. What if Tammy was a manager? What if she could talk? I don't know. Can she? I'm not sure. She's never done it before. But if she can talk, then I could pay them both a little bit. So I called him and pitched him the idea.
And I said, you're not going to leave school. So he applied to the University of Tennessee and got accepted. And I said, well, that's great. Yeah, you can take that little road trip and go see Mr. Cornette as long as you go to school. Yeah, I thought it was going to be temporary. Of course, he had to wear a baby bonnet.
What?
And he gets that baby bonnet count of 2 and no.
That's why wrestling just makes me so crazy. They make up these stories. So there was Christopher walking around in a baby bonnet and a diaper.
The suicide blind Chris Candido.
I guess it makes sense to some people. It made no sense at all to me.
No, it doesn't make no sense, but we still enjoy it.
Of the game, and he understood that it took more than great moves or a great match to get over. He realized he had to be a character. My name is Mick Foley. I am a 3-time WWE champion. I'm known as the Hardcore Legend.
Yeah.
And I was a colleague of Chris and Tammy's.
Yeah.
It's just more fun to be a bad guy. Bad guys have more fun.
Yeah. Yo, that's a fact. Yo.
He embraced the heel mannerisms. He liked to be a jerk. He was one of the best jerks I've seen in our business.
Though Chris relishes playing the bad guy, it's Tammy who is destined to be the ultimate villain.
The way I fell into the business, Jim Cornette asked me to work for him. And I was in college. I was a pre-med student. I wanted to be a plastic surgeon. And I was like, this is
why I love this show. Just because it's like, I'm sure, like, you know, I hear about the other reviews and everything of how they jump around and don't get too in depth into the story. I mean, you only have an hour to really get into this, but Shorty was supposed to be a plastic surgeon. She was a proper girl. She might have had a little whole stage in her. We all do. You know what I mean? That's innocence. You know what I mean? That's innocent. Like you growing as a person. That shit would have phased her. She would have went to school, fucked a bunch of niggas, had a bunch of orgies, probably been one of the best dick suckers on campus. But what she did was she stopped everything. This is why I have to respect her in certain ways, because she stopped everything for her man. A plastic surgeon is guaranteed to make way more than a wrestler. That was back then and still today. I'm sure the plastic surgeons, like even the lowest paying one, gets paid like almost the same as Roman Reigns, even back in the days. So for her to just be like, yo, I'm going to stop everything and I'm going to hit the road with this man for nothing. They were making $150 a night, which is what I make a day. All right, for 4 nights. That means you was only making $600 a week together. Maybe back in the days that was something, but hey, she stopped her life for this man, bro, and that's just crazy to me. I have to give up. Yo, salute to Sonny, man.
His thing, you know, I'm in school to be a doctor, but I was like, all right, it might be fun. I'll make a couple extra bucks, and that's how I fell into it.
We were in East Tennessee in the early 90s, and it was a highly Republican area. Everybody hated the Clintons. He's president. Hillary has tons of heat with all the Republicans.
I suppose I could have stayed home and baked cookies and had teas, but what I decided to do was to fulfill my profession, which I
saw an opportunity to basically piss off every Republican and every hillbilly in East Tennessee and surrounding states.
This young lady is Tammy Fitch. Now, the Smoky Mountain Wrestling attorneys have advised us to let her have her say here on the program.
And I gave her notes. I said, here, this is the story we'd like you to tell on your first interview. Put it in your own words, make it sound natural.
Tammy?
My name is Tammy Fitch of the New England Fitches. I'm sure you've heard of us.
One take she did.
Mrs. Clinton has proven that a woman can do anything she wants.
Here is this woman who idolizes the person.
She was beautiful back then, and goddamn it, she's beautiful right now. Fuck the mug shots. I met her in person. That motherfucker is sexy. All right, she's sexy. She did that shit in one take, what means that she is a motherfucking natural. Okay? I love this story. You have no idea how much I love this story, because it's every man's downfall, goddammit. If you a motherfucking thug or if you a motherfucking nerd, it doesn't matter. A woman will be your downfall. So niggas, pay attention to this motherfucking story, because it doesn't matter how good of a nigga you is. It doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter if you bring your bitch with you. It's gonna end bad. This is a nice little fucking house on the prairie story, and it's about to get dark. Let's go.
That they all can't stand. And she was coming to Smoky Mountain Wrestling because she demanded equal opportunity.
At any rate, the reason I'm here today is because I have filed a sexual discrimination lawsuit against Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
And the people hated that shit. She leaned into the idea that she could make people hate her. She wasn't scared of it at all.
I'm ready to become the first lady of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Hi, this is Tammy Fitch, and I'm here with Tammy's Tips. You'll be amazed at how I can make Margie into an acceptable human being. Tune in next week for more of Tammy's Tips. I'll make something out of you yet.
As soon as she was on screen, she lit it up, you know, like she just popped on screen.
And Jim Cornette put her in a perfect spot because she was that. She wasn't playing a part either. That was Tammy. My name is Dr. Tom Pritchard, and I was Chris Candido's tag.
Tom Pritchard. Oh, I never knew that. I never knew that was Tom Pritchard. I never knew that shit. Listen, bro. Listen, bro. I grew up over this tag team. It was them, Bart Gunn and Billy Gunn, the Goblins. Then DX came in, and then you had Terry Funk and Mankind. You had there was Vader and Mankind, and then you just had these certain tag teams that it was just like, yo, I never knew that was right, man. That's crazy.
Why wouldn't you want to be with your partner?
From the time they first came to Tennessee, they were inseparable. They rode together. They lived together, obviously. They seemed to be the most romantic, loving couple. Tammy had no idea that wrestling was going to pan out for her. She thought it was something that Chris was going to do. And then actually it made it all the more surprising when she got over quicker than he did.
They're obviously insecure about their masculinity.
In early 1995, Tammy's...
Wrestling is a bunch of men that are worse than women. That's all I hear. So I could just imagine a female getting on before a homeboy, you know what I mean? And she's just a manager. So I believe a lot of Sonny's downfall was because of the hating ass niggas. I'm just saying, just being 1,000.
Charisma and Chris's dynamic wrestling style catch the attention of the WWF. Signing with the company, the pair finally achieve their ultimate dream.
My relationship with Chris and Tammy was obviously as a mentor as well as a boss, but I genuinely believed in both of their talents, and I wanted to see them succeed even past my promotion.
He said, yeah, I'm gonna go wrestle for the WWF, which I thought was, well, okay, so you did make it. That means you're dropping out of school, but I guess you did make it.
His ultimate dream was getting to the WWF and being a top talent.
He attained his goal, and a lot of people just never attain their goal, and he did it without any encouragement from me.
Tammy, from the beginning, was ready to conquer the world, and she didn't care who knew it, didn't care what anybody thought about it.
Yes, I do think with the success, her head grew pretty big.
But the transformation that she was undergoing personally, inside and underneath all that, was even more remarkable and honestly much more dangerous.
Hi, I'm Skip.
And I'm Sunny. And we're the Body Donnas.
Body Donnas. I used to call them the Body Ghana's.
Were vocations.
Body Ghana's.
They were Mounties. They were IRS agents. They were repo men.
I love my job.
They made them fitness gurus, the Body Donnas. Chris was the young, jacked guy that would work out, and she was the pretty girl that would exercise along with him.
Come on, get up and work.
He would have been much more comfortable being himself, but I think he just thought of it as a rite of passage. See where it goes, and it went. I mean, they won the tag titles.
Oh, no. Slap drop. What is that? Did you just see what Phineas? Wait a minute.
I remember that,
They
bro.
added the tag
That's
partner,
crazy.
They made Tom Pritchard, who had, long curly hair that he was a big fan of, shave his head, and I'm like, they should have just called me. It's like I had the hair already. Hi, I'm Lance Storm, a professional wrestler who worked with Chris and Tammy in Smoky Mountain Wrestling as well as Extreme Championship Wrestling. I could have been Zip, yeah. Although in hindsight, being 2020, thank God they didn't.
It sucked. It was horrible. It was the worst goddamn time of my life. Shit.
But it worked.
It was rotten. It was a rotten gimmick, and that's what got Chris Candido off on the wrong foot with the fans in the WWF, is they saw this as preliminary foolishness. And they weren't mad at Tammy anymore because she wasn't this bitchy heel manager. She was this girl doing jumping jacks, and she's pretty, so they started loving her.
She was amazing on the mic. She was amazing as a manager. She was amazing at any damn thing in the business that you could possibly ask of her. I am
Terry Runnels,
former diva, manager, wrestler. She was, back in the day, the most downloaded female on AOL. And if you don't know what AOL is, well, that was back in the day, like back when Christ was born, we had AOL. Anyway, she was gorgeous. She had it all.
Viewer discretion is advised.
She went from a...
First of all, bitch, I love Terry. I'm sorry. You're not a bitch. AOL wasn't that long ago. It was about maybe like 25 years ago. So chill out. All right. But yes. Yes. We were downloading on WWF.com the Sunny poster. I know you had your mother subscribe to the WWF magazine, because I did for that. I loved Sunny and Sable. Still do, god damn it. I won't touch Sable because that's Brock Lesnar's way. But you know, Sunny's still my baby. I'm gonna have to find out her information and write and send some commissary.
19-year-old kid to a 24-year-old sex symbol.
I think it timed well with, the explosion of the internet, and all of a sudden it's, everyone's downloading sexy pictures of attractive women. Hit it, boys! And Tammy was just hitting at the right time as this new sex symbol character on wrestling television. And there was a lot of teenage or younger boys that thought that was a pretty damn good thing.
That was me!
Because she could come across as very charming. But once you got to know her, you understood that was just a front. And Tammy was all about Tammy.
As you should.
I heard Tammy was divisive. I always liked Tammy. I understood she was ambitious. Like, that's not a negative. But it can be if you're a woman in a man's business.
So there was one time on television before they had taken her off the road as the Body Donna's manager. Henry and Phineas Godwin, the pig farmers, they carried a slop bucket around, and they would dump the slop over the head of their opponents, and people would cheer, and they'd just love it.
Henry's got the slop.
On a particular night, I remember the Godwins coming in, putting the bucket down in the locker room and said, guys, the bucket is going on Tammy tonight, so don't anybody do anything in this bucket. And you can imagine.
And there must have been DNA from 20 different people in there.
Tammy seemed to have heat in the dressing room. I don't know why. If cockiness was a penalty, then we wouldn't have much of a business.
These niggas is bitches. Oh!
Everybody needs to have the performer's ego. Yes, you must have ego, no doubt. Tammy didn't lack an ego, but she went off the rails because she didn't know how to control it.
Tammy skyrockets to fame as one of the first female megastars in the WWF. But her rise to the top is plagued by a culture of drugs and alcohol. Soon, she's caught up in the hard partying lifestyle.
Dang.
Well, at the time that Tammy and Shawn Michaels started their liaison, I didn't know about it originally. Most people didn't. Then the rumors started circulating, and then it started to become more of an out-in-the-open thing.
She's mesmerized by Shawn Michaels. Will she come into the ring?
In the mid-90s, Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, was the top star in the WWF. He was the champion. He defeated Bret Hart in 1996 at WrestleMania and carried the belt through the end of 1997. I think Michaels did it because he could, and he could get away with it.
I'm feeling awfully randy. You know that? Can you feel it? You wanna feel me?
I can feel it.
All right.
Did Chris find out about Shawn and Tammy? I don't know if he actually caught him red-handed, but how could you not know?
You knew, my nigga.
Of course he knew. Everybody knew. I have to believe that he knew it and just could not accept it.
Oh my goodness!
She was a little girl that just wanted to be loved, and, being loved by the top guy felt a whole lot better than being loved by, her boyfriend that was down here, I assume.
If Shawn Michaels hadn't been Shawn Michaels...
She was young, man. She was young. She had Shawn fucking Michaels in 1997 at one of his highest points of his career. She wasn't introduced to. She had one dude. I'm sure she had a couple other dudes, but she had one dude that she was, you know what I mean, focused on. She didn't know what the fuck she was doing, man. Damn, you can't motherfucker. Listen, I don't judge females all the time off of, you know what I mean. Like, look at, that's like being a Disney kid, bro. Like, you introduce this young chick to some bullshit money and bullshit ass, you know what I mean, this. Then she start fucking with Shawn fucking Michaels. Like, she's making money, he's making money, you know what I mean? Females get all fucking emotional with shit, so she probably thought like this, the same thing I did with him, I could do with this person, and we probably could do, you know what I mean? And Shawn was in his shit, he was in his bag, probably doing who knows what, introducing it to who knows who, you know what I mean? And she probably just had that mindset of like, yo, like, can't judge everybody, man. She was honestly a sucker for love, and you can't really judge people off of that, man. So it is what it is, though.
And he got sideways with Chris Candido. Chris Candido would have broke him in 15 pieces and shoved him up his own ass. But Chris wasn't going to do that because Michaels is a big star. This is Chris's dream to work for the biggest promotion. He took it, and he internalized it, I think.
My brother and Tammy had an altercation in a hotel. It was too much. I couldn't watch.
Yeah, Tammy was
my
off
brother
on drugs and started
treated
getting
like that.
toxic,
So
man.
I grabbed him. I threw him out of the room into the hallway. He's trying to fight to get back in. I'm not letting him. I'm like, dude, let's get in the car and let's get the fuck out of here. And he's like, I can't do that, dude. And he's like, dude, I brought her into this business. It's my responsibility.
And that's what happened. Like, he was just a sucker for love. She's probably coked out, probably on some pills or whatever. And he's just like, he's trying to save her. He's trying to play Captain Save a Hoe. She's young, being loud, being, you know, playing him. Like, you know what I mean? This is why you not the champion and shit, hurting his ego. And he's just being a good nigga, bro. And you gotta understand, niggas like that, they don't last. So this part of the dark side of the ring is literally a story of like what all young men should realize, especially until you get older. Until you get older and you meet a female that is on the, you know, and she's been on her warpath and done destroying her people, and you done destroying your people and everything like that, and y'all ready to settle down, that's when. But until you, like, from the age of, you know, when you start dating from like 13, 14, whatever, all the way until, you know, you're 35 or whatever, whenever you decide to settle down, hopefully you like me and didn't have no kids or accidents or anything like that. You know, but yeah, man, this shit is just sad, man. Just, you know, you always gotta realize that a female's always gonna want more. You could give her everything in the world, bro. She's always gonna want more, and there's always gonna be a man with more. You know what I mean? And you're always gonna be around those people, especially if you start being a man of greatness. Where it's just like there's other people that is gonna be greater than you. That should you should, even if she's a down one, she's still gonna look at another man, even if she's not looking at him like, ooh, I'll fuck that nigga. She's gonna she's gonna like observe. You know what I mean? Like, she's gonna like notice. She might just look at him for 2.1 millisecond. She knows that if she wasn't with you and that man would, she's fucking that man. She'll fuck that man for a position or money or whatever. That's how females work. She doesn't have to obsess and make it happen or anything. She just know that if it ever happened, it happens. So this story is very important.
To take care of her. I'm like, that's bullshit, dude. Like, let's get the fuck out of here. And he's like, I can't do it.
We were together for, it was almost the 7-year mark. And it was like, I had the itch. You know what I mean? I was kind of tired of being in the same thing. And so we split up for a little while, and that's when I was seeing Shawn. Nothing was ever talked about. Nothing was ever brought up. That's why, like to this day, I always wonder, did he know everything? Did he not know?
Sonny.
If he knew,
You know
he just
him.
loved me so much, he just ignored it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I would love to know, but I'll never know.
You know.
Chris Candido's undeniable talent isn't enough to make him a top star in the eyes of the company. After falling down the ranks of the WWF, a serious injury makes his prospects even worse.
It was in Madison Square Garden. He came back to the dressing room. He said, "Oh, I got a hurt neck." Well, they found out that it was more than hurt. It was broke. And this kid's going out there busting his ass. You know,
That's
having
crazy.
a broken neck, aching back, everything else in life. Somebody says, "Here, try this." Well, if one's good,
Here you go.
6 must be even better.
My brother never touched a drink, a drug, anything until he was in WWF, and it was out of necessity. It was pain. He was hurt. He broke his neck.
I was surprised when I heard that Chris had fallen into that trap because he'd always been so clean. Didn't even drink.
It started for pain, obviously, but then it became he could use it to just go to sleep and forget about it.
Right.
And I think he used it for his emotions at times, yes.
That's why I don't fuck with nothing, man. There's only weed for me, man. You can't. It's easy to get, addicted to something, even if you're not trying to even take it there. Like me, I'm not a person that I would take it there, but I know if I enjoy a high where I can, sleep it off or something like that. Like that's what I was using, codeine for at one point. And then it was like, that's all I wanted to use sleep for, but I wasn't continuous. I was just noticing like, yo, that would be what I want to use. Or like if I was, trying to have an upper when I was on ecstasy, I knew like, hey, if I wanted to do a couple hours at work, a couple extra to make a couple more dollars, let me pop a couple more ecstasy and stuff like that. And then, it's like, okay, a summer just flew by. Let me slow down. So I get it. Like, it's so easy to get trapped into like a habit. But, some of us, like myself, is lucky enough to where we can control. The only thing I can't control, I can control ecstasy. I've never tried anything else but ecstasy. But I know not to fuck with pills at all. You know what I mean? I know I've been strong in this whole, epidemic in fucking 2023 with pills. I've to never touch pills. Codeine is something that I used for asthma that they gave me, I guess, whatever reason to go to sleep. And it fucking worked. But it's easy to fucking get trapped in these things, man. And I don't drink as well. So the fact that this kid is so clean and then, he's doing this shit with a broke neck and he's going through everything. His bitch is doing all of this, man. That shit is so fucking easy to get trapped in, bro. It's crazy, bro. It's fucking wild, man.
While Tammy Sitch revels in the fame and excitement of being on top in the WWF, Chris Candido finds himself squeezed out and even bullied by the toxic culture of the locker room.
He wasn't well liked by a few key people in the locker room. And life can be really tough for somebody who's not well liked by the key people in the locker room.
Battling injuries and frustration with his mid-card status, Chris leaves the WWF in search of the main event spotlight and joins the hardcore and controversial Extreme Championship Wrestling.
Paul Heyman was in charge of ECW. Chris knew he would be well utilized there, and he was.
The thing that the fans liked about Chris was that he was a throwback to an old-time wrestler. He was exciting and fast and strong, and he could talk, and he looked good. That in-ring portrayal was the best thing that Chris Candido ever did.
Here's the blonde bomb!
It's like, and people think we were insane, but it's like, in ECW, when we were working, it's like, his finisher was the blonde bombshell, the power bomb off the top rope. And depending on which one of us won, we would give the other one the power bomb off the top rope every night.
There it is, the blonde bombshell!
And he had injuries from these bumps. I remember there was one time in the middle of the night his back was bothering so much they caved in and took him to the hospital. And when they went in and first looked at his back, the doctor looked at it and says, well, I need to see the accident report. And Chris is like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you were in a car accident, right? He's like, no. They're like, well, how did your back end up this messed up? He's like, I wrestle professionally.
The fans for that 90s grunge era loved that kind of shit. And as a result, all those guys crippled themselves.
Had to face the reality of breaking my neck twice.
And that fed the drug use that most of the people involved on the ECW roster were already heavily involved with. Somas were a drug of choice for a lot of wrestlers, especially in the 90s and 2000s. It's a muscle relaxer, heavy-duty muscle relaxer.
They're really great for back pain. The intended use for Somas is take 1 or 2 with food. However, if you take 6, 7, chew them up, swallow them, and it's like I was gonna say insta drunk, but it's not drunk. It's like a euphoric state is pretty much what it is.
It seems to me like people can be addicted with one prescription, with 30 pills. By the time that week is up, you can be an addict.
Tammy, she didn't have any of that problem. It was the jack-offs that she was going out and partying with. They're all drinking, they're all doing Somas. She didn't have any of those issues, she just started doing it socially.
Tammy's meteoric rise in the WWF hits a sudden obstacle with the arrival of Sable, a new diva who quickly...
That was my baby! I love you, baby! I love you!
In the hopes of revitalizing her career, Tammy joins Chris at ECW as his on-screen manager. But her struggles with substance abuse continue, affecting her performance in the ring.
She would, walking on her high heels, her ankles would be vibrating and shaking and she'd be stumbling, and the audience noticed it on her entrance.
Joey, take a whiff of that front row, that ringside area. It smells like alcohol.
As Chris and Tammy's drug use spirals out of control, it becomes impossible to ignore, both for audiences and ECW owner Paul Heyman.
Let me tell a few jokes. Let me get on the floor and do the curly shuffle. Well, there's no more jokes now. It's no more fun and games. No more joking around.
To keep their jobs in ECW, Tammy agrees to film a provocative tell-all video as directed by Paul Heyman.
My first drink was at home when there were no more pills to make you go to sleep.
It was disheartening. As their friend, I'm watching it, sitting there going, this is not productive.
Right.
This is not going to help these kids in any way.
I was hoping I wouldn't wake up next morning.
Tell me that. Describe that feeling.
The worst feeling in the world.
I was mad at Heyman for a long time. Actually, I could work up getting mad at him now for doing that. But it was all because Paul thought people will watch this. It'll get ratings. Well, they'll watch two dogs fucking on the side of the road too, Paul, but I wouldn't have put it on my television.
I don't think it did anyone any favors. Now, the right answer would have been that their time off, they had gone to rehab and got everything worked out, and we had the triumphant story on the return, but that's not what happened.
Not at all, right? That wouldn't be the dark side of the ring, right? Because these kids wasn't good. They weren't good to the company and nothing
As
like
their
that.
alcoholism and soma addictions grow more severe, Chris and Tammy's domestic problems escalate to a whole new level of intensity.
I would see something really crazy. Just crazy insanity. Like she's pulling knives out of the butcher block. He's running away, and then she's locked in the car, and then he picks me up from high school the next day, and he's like, oh dude, Tammy's waiting for you to put together your bedroom set. And he's like wondering why I'm not stoked to go put together a bedroom set. And we just never talked about it. We just slipped it under the rug, and that was it.
Chris would be in the ring, wrestling, and Tammy would be somewhere else with somebody else in the back while he's in the ring. While he's in the ring, you have to want to stop. You have to want to get better. And I don't think either one of them knew how to live any other way at that time.
While serving their suspension from ECW, Paul Heyman keeps Chris and Tammy on the payroll by assigning them office jobs, including arranging travel plans for other wrestlers on the road.
My brother had this American Express card, and he would book the boys' flights and hotel rooms and then get reimbursed with cash. He'd do it, get reimbursed with cash, and then he stopped getting reimbursed with cash.
What Chris and Tammy don't know is that ECW is struggling with crippling debt. As the promotion crumbles, the couple is stuck with a massive bill for tens of thousands of dollars in unreimbursed ECW expenses.
So they ended up in huge, huge debt and ultimately ended up losing their home. So that was a horrible time for them.
His drug use was probably as bad as it ever was. We knew of pharmacies that were corrupted, and we could go there and get 120 Somas every other day, you know? So we were at this pharmacy, and we were waiting, and all of a sudden he goes, oh no. And he has a seizure, and he bites his tongue, and he's coughing up blood. And I'm holding him, trying to get his eyes to like look at me, you know? So they call the ambulance, and when you come out of a seizure, you don't know what you're saying. And they're like, sir, what day is it? Sir, what day is it? I'm like, move out of the way, ask him something he knows. I'm like, Cook, how many times did Ric Flair win the NWA title? He's like, 16. I'm like, all right, he's alive. But then when you go to the hospital, and he, you know, like, where am I? I'm like, you're in the hospital. And he'd be like, I'm in the hospital, get the fuck out of here. Rip the things out of his arm and we'd go.
After years of uncertainty, Chris and Tammy receive an invitation to join an independent wrestling promotion in Puerto Rico with the hope of revitalizing their careers. However, things quickly take a turn for the worse.
We get there, the buildings are decrepit, a lot of them are outside, no running water. You get hit in the head with 9-volt batteries as you walk in out of the locker room. People go up to the concession stands, buy a cup of soda, drink it, fill it with pee, pour it on your head as you walk in the locker room, whether you're a heel or a babyface, doesn't matter. I had welts on my head from 9-volt batteries night after night.
The access in Puerto Rico to Somas was very easy. You know, it was well known where you could go to get Somas, just like that.
I heard Chris was struggling. Ah, man, I heard it was bad.
He would just say, you know, dude, if I go out, I wanna leave a good-looking corpse, you know, blonde, tan, and you know, I wanna like live fast, die young. I'm like, dude, don't fucking say that shit. He needed to change. I think he even knew, you know, that he needed to change, and it's not time to throw in the towel and just, you know, stay there and fucking die. One day, you know, we were sitting there having our lunch, and he's like, man, you know, the guys on the indies right now, fucking, you know, he's like, they really get under my skin. He's like, you know, they don't look like professional athletes. He's like, you know, when I was 17, 18, I was already big, muscular. I was going to Smoky Mountain. I was making moves. I was doing all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's why you were a standout. That's why you made it, numbnuts. And he's like, man, I really fucked everything up. And I was like, dude, no, you didn't. Like, you're 32, 31. Let's get back on fucking track. And he's like, yeah, dude, fuck it. It was at that point that his love for wrestling overcame his addiction to the Somas.
Chris gets clean and undergoes intense training to regain his fighting form. With Tammy by his side, he returns to the mainland to join a new wrestling promotion called Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. Back on television, he's determined to work his way to the top of the industry.
What I noticed from Chris Cassoro is being reinvigorated, getting that drive back, and you could see it in his eyes. I could see it in his work.
He was as happy as he was when he first got signed to WWF. Like, he had that same happiness, like dude, he was like glowing, you know? The thing he just said, he's like, dude, like, I'm really sorry for all the stuff that you saw at such a young age, you know? I apologize. He's like, I shouldn't have, like, you know, put you in that situation. I was just like, dude, you were a baby too, you know? You were 23, 24.
I had heard at that point he had cleaned up, and he certainly seemed like Smoky Mountain, Chris Candido again?
There was a camera in the ring, and he tried to bump to get away from it. And that got his boot hung up a little bit in the canvas when he was trying to bump it. And his shin broke. And right away, he wanted to stand up, but he couldn't. He got out of the ring, and they took him to the hospital, and I'm fucking freaking out. I'm here, you know? I call his phone, and he's like, dude, I can't believe I left the ring. He's like, I just couldn't stand up, you know? He's like, I'm just like fucking embarrassed that I left the ring. Like, I shouldn't have done that.
I talked to him on Monday, and he said, hey, I'm about to go in the doctor. I'll call you back.
After undergoing extensive ankle surgery, Chris makes a surprise appearance at a TNA event just 2 days later. He then boards a flight home, unaware of the tragedy that awaits.
Everybody saw the horrendous injury that I sustained in lockdown.
On Wednesday, he flew home and he called me Wednesday night. And he's like, oh, Mom, I just don't feel good. I said, well, Chris, you probably shouldn't have flown home. You just need to go to bed. And that was the last time I talked to him.
All I know is he was fine on the phone, talking to me. You know, the two of us were chatting. You know, last thing we said to each other was, hey, love you, bro, love you too. It was the next morning that I get a call that Cook's in the hospital. I go in there and I see him like laid on a hospital bed, and I get on top of him like I've done a million times, and I'm like, Cook. You know, I'm like, yo, wake up. And, you know, I'm trying to like open his eyes and shit. And then when I was trying to once I grabbed his hand, I realized he passed away because the blood stopped flowing. And I was like, holy shit. Like, it was fucking, like, it was the worst experience of my entire life.
I bet.
I just go walking, and I found a church. Oh, and I said a couple prayers, and then, yo, sorry, hold on.
The last interaction I had with Chris. Sorry.
Take your time, brother.
Everything was off. Everything, dude. It was just fucked. And I got home, and Tommy Dreamer called me. I said, Chris is dead. I said, Chris who? Couldn't have been Candido. I just talked to him Monday. I said, Candido. He started crying. So, oh my God. And I hung up. He hung up. And I started crying.
Yeah, dude, I don't really break up, you know, but that image is freaking stuck with me.
Doctor comes in, kneels down in front of me and says, sorry, he's gone. I said, what? I said, you're sorry he's gone? I said, what are you talking about? Gone where? Did you guys walk out? It's like, no, we lost him. Like, what do you mean? I don't comprehend this. And then that's when they said they found the blood clot. They said after the surgery, blood clot formed in his ankle and went to his lungs, which caused a little pneumonia, and went to his heart. And then there's nothing they could have done.
By the time I got to the hospital, he was already gone. I let him down.
Why do you say that?
Because if I knew, maybe I could have helped him. Maybe I could have saved him. Maybe I should have been there. I shouldn't have let him gone through surgery by himself. You know, you think back on things and you say, maybe if I was there, things would be different. I miss him. I miss him all the time. And I just feel sad that he didn't get the opportunity to enjoy a lot more life because he had a lot a lot more life to live.
You know, here's the thing about this whole deal, is that this kid never did anything wrong to anybody. And he has all those problems, and then he finally is getting straightened out. And just when he gets his last chance, it was because he was so dedicated to the wrestling business that he died. He could have sat at home and they would have paid him. But after he had that surgery, he had to get on a plane and go somewhere. And you shouldn't fly after surgery. You can get blood clots and the altitude and the pressure, whatever. And that's what happened. A goddamn broken ankle killed him. I need a minute. I'm sorry. That's with Chris, I don't get sentimental about many people.
He was a good dude. He was a good dude, man. He seemed like a good dude. He just wanted to be the best at what he was doing and bring his girl with him, man. It's fucked up, man. That's wild.
If Chris Candido was around today, he'd be one of the biggest stars in wrestling because the style has changed. And they like smaller, younger, faster guys.
The road that Chris helped pave is now the road most traveled. And I think because of that, he's left a bigger legacy, even though she was by far the bigger star at her peak. Tammy was that bridge to divas. The road she paved at the time is a road almost no longer traveled.
I once heard her say she has no regrets. None. Zero. Zilch. I don't know if you are a living, breathing human being that you can truly utter those words and mean them, because mistakes are regrets, in my opinion.
When was the last time you spoke to Tammy?
I think she'd just gotten out of jail.
Real quick, what's your last name?
Sitch, S-Y-T-C-H.
What's your first name?
Tamara.
Okay,
Jesus,
what's your
she
middle name?
didn't look like that.
I mean,
Jesus,
the way I
she
look
did
at
not
it,
look
I
nothing
fucked
like
up?
that.
Shit, absolutely. But you know what? Shit happens. Life
Right.
happens, and there's nothing you can do about it. I, unfortunately, didn't know how to cover it up very well with, 7 DUIs and
But you didn't start- but
a couple of jail stints.
You could still always hold out hope that she'd straighten up and get her shit together. People do. And then we got the news, and at this point it's never surprising, but still it's like, oh boy, she's done it now.
49-year-old Tamara Sitch, a former WWE wrestler, crashed into the back of a car, killing its 75-year-old driver.
She's drunk. She has no license with the multiple DUIs. She has no business being anywhere behind the wheel, and is now charged with DUI manslaughter, up to 20-something years in prison.
She's denying it and denying it and denying it. And when you can't be honest with yourself, you're not going to be honest with anybody else. So I just don't think she's coming out. I hope she doesn't. I don't want her to do any more damage.
It was surprising.
I don't want nobody
They
doing
never
life,
turned
man.
out to
Shit.
see both of them as young people, and then especially to see what happened with Tammy. Tammy changed. Tammy lost track of what was going on, and Tammy lost control of her life. I wouldn't have seen that coming from the girl I first met.
Chris Candido, the real world heavyweight champion.
Chris, the last 15 years, I don't think if he'd have lived, if he would have been a significantly different person. Today, Chris would be one of the biggest stars in the business because the business is more accepting of what Chris offered and what he brought.
His legacy. I think if you're happy doing what you're doing, you should just do it. Just do it. If you have a dream, dream it. Live your dream, live your life to the fullest. He did more in 33 years than I've done in 73. So he's been everywhere. He's seen so many things. He's had so many life experiences. He was special. He was my special kid. He was special to a lot of people. And I'm thankful for that.
She didn't want to do an interview. This story really just it pisses me off because it's like I've been there. You know what I mean? And I've been to the highest point with my girl, and then to the ground, and to hear like yo how dude ended, and just like it just sucks, man. This is the first Dark Side of the Ring where it was just like I couldn't really like the the Magnum TA was like the one that I put out first, but this one was the first one that I watched that I felt like was really like this dude was genuinely a good guy. You know what I mean? Like he was a really, really good guy. He wasn't really meant for certain people, and Sonny was just a good girl that gone bad. And you know, he loved his girl, bro. And you know, drugs is a hell of a fucking thing. But you know, R.I.P. to Chris. Can listen, R.I.P. man. I really like this.